right, so what I want to talk about today is rigging. And my experience with rigging is in the kayak industry, I'm known as the one that pushes the limits. I want to see how far I can push the rigging in a kayak, the weight in a kayak, and stuff like that. The advantage I have is I can do it, and I have enough sponsors to be able to take care of all the rest of it. So I've got my two kayaks over here on my trailer. That trailer currently has about 225,000 miles on the axle. I'm all over the country, and then I've got the two latest bona fides fully rigged up, my kayak, my tournament kayak, and then the new XTR that I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with and how I'm going to rig it. But what I want to go through in this seminar is from basic, what you need to begin with, all the way out to as far as I can take it with what I've got here on the stage. Biggest thing is to understand is, first of all, I want to talk about safety. Okay, I assume everybody has a kayak or is thinking about getting a kayak. This device, this item right here, my PFD. My recommendation, and you know, when I was in the military, you know, when we were in training and stuff like that, when it was something that was going to be on the test, the drill sergeant or the instructor would stomp his foot to let you know it was very important. So I'm going to stomp my foot because this is the most important thing. Wear it. Don't have it in the back. It doesn't do you any good if it's not on you. You never know what's going to happen with these things, no matter how stable they are. I've got one of the most stable kayaks in the industry, and still I've fallen out 3 times. And for every kayak angler or kayaker, there's 2 types of kayak anglers. There's those who have fallen out and those who will. Okay, and I'm not saying you're going to get knocked out if you fall out or anything else, but if it's blowing wind, this kayak can get away from you. If you're in current, your kayak can get away from you, and you don't know how long it's going to take you to get back into that kayak. So I'm going to go get my own microphone. And so you don't know how long it's going to get. But the other thing, and last year I did a safety seminar, and actually 2 months after I did the safety seminar last year, one of the guys that was here and was in the safety seminar got a hold of me and said that what I taught him then saved his life. And he fell out in cold water, and through my seminar I taught him how to get back into the kayak. So one of my other suggestions is go out on the water with nothing in your kayak and jump out and practice getting back in. That's a skill that I've made 2 videos about on my YouTube channel, and I know a bunch of other guys have done the same thing. That's the one skill that you need to know, is how to get back in your kayak without flipping it over and without messing off all your gear in order to self-rescue if you fall out. Okay, all of that. Now, PFD most important, then another one is a good paddle. So this paddle right here, this is a bending branch is just their basic angler. And what I recommend with a paddle is get one that is as light as you can afford. I'm not saying break the bank. I always try to tell people, get one between at least $80 is what I found is kind of where that point is, where you get a really heavy paddle that's not fun to paddle and the blade's too small and it's turned wrong. You get to that $80 to $100 paddle, then you get one that's light enough to where you can use it all day long and you're not wearing yourself out. Because that's your engine, that's your motor most of the time is your paddle. The other choices are, of course, a pedal drive kayak. And then that just depends on your budget, and stuff like that, and then motorized. My catchphrase this year is, I don't fish for exercise. And so my boats get so much crap on them, and they get so heavy that I have to motorize them, or there's an issue. I get too worn out. So those are your options with rigging, as in propulsion and things like that. Paddle, pedal, motor, and then the other things you need to consider are what you're going to do and what type of fishing you're going to do. Okay, I've really got to figure this microphone out. It's going to drive me nuts. Try it right there. All right. So is that okay? Can you guys hear me okay, or does it just go away? So. All right. Now, pull my notes out because I tend to forget a lot. Okay. When you're rigging a kayak, one of the things you got to think about is weight distribution. Okay, if you're going to put a lot of stuff on your kayak, you want to make sure you have everything evened out. And one of the things I suggest is when you get done rigging it up, you put it out in the water and you sit in it and you figure out whether your nose is too deep or your back is too deep. So for instance, that kayak right over there, that new XTR, in order for me to be able to stand up on the front deck, I had to make sure that there was enough weight in the back. So I've got all of my daggum batteries. I got 175 amp hours worth of batteries in that box in the back to give it the weight that it needed. And if it doesn't have the weight back there, it's not very stable. Okay, and that's one of the few kayaks that does that. And this one right here is the PWR 129. I'm very partial to this kayak because I had a lot to do with the design and the layout and the fishability of this kayak when we were designing it. So I talk about it like it's my baby. So just understand that no matter what kayak you got, this one is my favorite. So the next thing you got to think about when rigging a kayak is, how do you fish? How many of us fish for bass? Largemouth, smallmouth? Okay, how many of us fish on rivers? Okay, big lakes, little lakes.
Yes.
JT.
All.
Okay, so that also determines what kayak you're going to get. You know, there's guys that fish rivers all the time, and they want a boat that you can maneuver in the river, and it's not going to kill you by flipping you over when it's too big and stuff like that. And that also limits the amount of stuff you can put on. So I'll keep all that in mind. For me personally, I want to make sure that when I'm sitting in this chair, that I can get to everything, that I can get to the things that I need to get to without it becoming dangerous. And so in my kayak, if I sit down, I can get to my rods, I can get to my fish finders, because I'm always adjusting my fish finders. If I need to get up in front, I can drop my fish finders and reach up in front and grab gear or anything else. I typically don't keep gear inside unless I'm overnighting it or the weather's bad. I've got my rain gear in the front and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is being able to reach everything and know where everything is. My number one rule is that everything has to have its place, and everything goes back in its place after you're done with it. Pliers, scissors, things fall in the water if you don't have that one rule. And so my scissors and pliers, actually, if you guys can, after the show, you can go look at the one on my tournament kayak. I sewed magnets underneath the front lip of my seat, and that holds my pliers and holds my scissors. That does two things. It makes my dentist very, very happy because I don't bite my line anymore, because I can actually get to my scissors really fast when I'm retying and doing things like that. And also, if I've got a fish flopping around in the front of the boat, or I've got a fish in my hand and I need to get a pliers to get the hook out, it's right there. I don't have to go way up underneath and dig for it underneath my seat. That's the most genius thing I've ever done to a kayak, is just add heavy-duty magnets right up underneath the seat right there. Maybe I'll start making them and sell them. Who knows? Okay, so, but everything has its place and everything goes back in its place. That way you can find it when you need it. When you need it, you can find it fast. It makes you more efficient on the water and things like that. Now, what are some of the options when rigging? Anybody remember the old milk crates that we used to use?
Oh yeah.
Remember the old milk crates? Well, Yak Attack started to make black packs. And this is a Black Pack Pro is what this one is. And it's a 13 by 16. They make three different sizes. They make a 13 by 13, a 13 by 16, and a 16 by 16. I've tried the 16 by 16, and again, the way I fish and the way and the stuff that I put on the sides and everything else, the 16 by 16 was just too big. But the 13 by 13 is great. Now this one has got two different items on it. It's got the basic box with a short stack on the top, and this short stack will hold like my plastics and the gear I need to get to quickly, and then the bottom of it will hold all of my tackle, and it holds those 3,600 boxes this way, and it holds the larger 3,700 boxes this way, and so I can carry a ton of tackle in that, and it's just great. Now the 13 by 16 comes with 6 rod holders. This one has 8, so I've added 2 extra rod holders in that. And I did it by modifying these rod holders, cutting off the tabs that were on the side, spreading them out a little bit further, and there's some hook tabs on the side of these normally that this bungee cord straps onto. And I got rid of those, and I actually buckle it down to my kayak using using some brackets here, and it goes up and straps in, so it's in there solid. But I got rid of those so I could put more rods on it. So I can hold 8 rods on this. The other thing to think about is a rod holder. What do I do with that rod holder? Cover it up. Okay. How many of us have a kayak that have those built-in flush-mounted rod holders? You know what I call those? Mosquito breathers. Because down south, it's impossible to get the water out of them. You got to turn your kayak upside down to drain them. They just grow mosquitoes is all they do. And then when you put your rod in them, they're soaking wet full of nasty water. And that's why when this boat was originally designed, you see these flat spots right here? They were designed with flush-mounted rod holders. You know why they don't have them in there anymore? Because I pitched such a stinking fit. I said if they want them, put a little dent right there where they drill the hole, and it's got a mark for you to drill your stinking hole, and you can put your own dang flush-mounted rod holders in there if you want. Why people think a fishing kayak has got to have flush-mounted rod holders, and that's just from the sales side of it. You can see how many people come in, where's the rod holders? And there's not any, so they don't consider it a fishing kayak unless it has those rod holders. But, so we got rid of them in this boat, we've gotten rid of them in a few others, but there's always a place where you can put them if you want. You want to breed all the mosquitoes that you want. But we have external rod holders. Yak Attack, and all these things from Yak Attack I'm talking about, you can find right over here in the booth. But they have these awesome bases that come with all of their rod holders and all of their attachments that require these bases. Okay? And you notice this kayak has a bunch of these, what we call gear tracks, all over the side. Now what if your kayak doesn't have gear tracks? Or what if it only has a few? There's a few of these out there that just have 2 or 3 of them.
Buy more and ammo.
We sell, they sell gear tracks now. We don't have to make them out of stuff. But these are the ones that I use. I always try to use the aluminum ones. But they come in different sizes from 4-inch all the way up to 18 inches. And if you've got a flat spot anywhere on your kayak, you can mount it there. My new favorite ones are the plastic ones because they're lighter and they will fit in. They're designed to be able to fit all of the little screw bosses that are in this black pack. So if I needed to put something on there, I could mount it right there pretty easy. You don't. Only thing you need to put these in is a drill and they give you all the instructions on the thing. A small little drill bit. I think it's a 364s or something like. Real small drill bit to start the screws. You don't need to put any silicone down or anything else. Drive them all the way in, and they're good with this type of plastic. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to seal them, which is great. But these bases, you can mount them anywhere you want, and I've got a spot already put up right here for this rod holder. And I've been known to put 3 on either side of this kayak and put another 6 rods on my boat. So that's 8 plus 6. What's that? 11, 14. So I can put a ton of rods already on there. Another type of rod holder we have are the ones that I thought I was going to hate. When they came out with these, I looked at them, and when they come out, when you buy them, they're about this long. And I was like, man, what am I going to do with this? They're called side stagers, so they're designed to fit on the side of your kayak and hold the rods at a horizontal, which is great when you're fishing rivers and a lot of overhangs and stuff like that. And I was like, what am I going to do with it? So I took a Sawzall and I cut the son of a gun in half, and I made it to where it holds 2. And they mount right here on my kayak, and it holds my rod that I'm using. If I have to put it off to the side to be able to work with a fish or anything else, it'll hold one of those, and it'll hold my follow-up rod. You guys ever fish topwater and miss the fish on topwater? Okay. My suggestion, and if you don't know this is pro tip 101. Have a follow-up rod with a Cinco or a trick worm or something like that, because when that fish blows up and you miss it, you know where he's at, right? He's already told you exactly where he's at. You put that topwater down. Don't throw back with that same stinking topwater. He's going to miss it again. Put it down, grab that Cinco, throw it into that spot where he blew up, and then set the hook, because I guarantee he's got it. Okay? Anybody ever fished with a, what is it called, live target bluegill topwater bait? Probably not, because we got rid of them. But they were the worst topwater baits in the world. The fish would blow, they would literally come unglued trying to bite it, but you never could get the hook set on. So I did a video once, and I had to get rid of it because they got mad at me. But I did a video once. I said, all right, let me show you how to catch a fish on a live target bluegill. And the trick was to get the fish to blow up on it, reach down, grab your Texas rig, and throw it into the hole. where he blew up, and that's how you can catch a fish on the live target lure. They didn't like that too much. But anyway, so I cut these down. They sit on the side. Like I said, I didn't think I would like them because they were so big. But by cutting them a little bit smaller, I made it to where one, I could paddle over top of them, and I could land a fish on the other side of those rods. So that it didn't get in the way. My net has gotten snagged on there a few times, but that was about it. So, all right, other options. Fish finders. And this is why I love Bonafide, okay? This is one of the biggest reasons. This dry pod, this is how it comes brand new out of the kayak. And as there's a hole that goes right down all the way, a big giant scupper that goes right down through. And so this is a dry box for the most part, unless you get it submerged and then water will get inside of it. But we put our transducer on the bottom of that dry box. Okay, we mount it on there, and depending on the transducer and the type of mount is the space that the spacer is. Like I've got another one that's an inch spacer, this one's 2 1/4 inches. And it just drops right in the hole, just like that. And because I have multiple kayaks, it's nice because then I can just move the same transducer around from kayak to kayak. But that's me. The biggest thing is that you have full water contact with the transducer. Anybody remember when we had to do through-hole transducers? You had to put a whole bunch of silicone in the bottom of your kayak and stick that sucker on there and hope you didn't have any air bubbles in it. And that's gone with this. And so now you can side scan, you can down imaging, all you want with that setup. Of course, you got to do wiring and everything else. Now, where's my fish finder go?
On the Ketch.
So same thing with those bases. You drop a fish finder right there and it's sitting right in between you. What's nice about that is if you have a GPS fish finder, it's at the same spot as your transducer. So if you've got your transducer in the back of the boat and you see something you want to mark on the GPS that's on your fish finder, you mark it on your GPS, you're 6 feet off on that waypoint. Okay? That's why on big boats we take and we put a GPS buck in the back of the boat next to our transducer, so you have that exact mark. But with your transducer at the same spot as your GPS receiver, you get exact locations where whatever you see on your fish finder, you mark, it's right there. And so being an offshore angler, that's so important to me. So I love having my transducer underneath my fish finder. Okay, other options are more tackle. Okay, we all love our fishing tackle, right? So we have these track packs. And when you buy them, I think you can buy them two at a time. I think they come two in a rack. And then you can buy these little inserts that drop inside of them, and you can have, there's 3 different types of, depending on what size lures and stuff like that. And this is another thing that I didn't think I was going to like when they came out, and I started using them. And I'll put them on there, and they have these little bases that come with them, and they lock right into that base. And then this one will lock right on top of it. My fishing partner and travel partner, Michael, has 6 of these son of a guns on his kayak. He's got 2, 4, and another 2 sitting up front. But anyway, what I figured out with this one is, like when I was fishing in Florida the last 3 weeks, the top one has all my soft plastics that I'm using right then and there. And so when I lose a soft plastic, when it wears out, stuff like that, I don't have to turn around and quit. When I'm in a tournament, I want to make as many casts as I can. I don't want to have to turn around and dig for my plastics. The ones that I'm using go in there as I'm fishing. The bottom one had all of my chatterbaits, all of my hard baits, a little bit of terminal tackle like hooks and sinkers and things like that. So if I broke off, I could quickly get in there, get a hook, get a sinker, get a peg, re-rig that line that I broke off, and be back to fishing without having to dig in the back. The back was in case I needed to change anything. So most of my stuff stays up in the track packs now. These have become invaluable to me. And for those of you who use cut bait and stuff like that, they actually make a cutting board that clips on the top of those now. I actually have one mainly just for pictures, because that white background is perfect to put lures on there and take pictures for thumbnails and things like that for videos. But anyway, so the track pack is really good. Another basic, if you guys don't have like a spot lock or anything else on a trolling motor, is an anchor. Okay, and there's tons of ways to rig an anchor up. And this is called an anchor wizard. Okay, I have been using an anchor wizard for 6 years now. I wear these things out like there's no tomorrow. And all it is just your anchor line and it's got a tightening, a device inside of it that as you reel it in, it tightens up. So you drop your anchor out, and I typically will run my anchor off the front of my boat, especially in current rivers and stuff like that. I run it off. I don't put an anchor trolley or anything else on the side. I never had one and never used it. But I'll run my anchor off the side. This will mount right here on this track or up on that track if you want to lean forward. And it's just a line management for your anchor, so you don't have line wrapped around your feet and stuff like that. And the size anchor that I typically use is I use about an 8-pound, what are they called? The kettlebell.
Yep.
The weightlifting kettlebell, about an 8-pound kettlebell is all I use. And I love those kettlebells is because I've never gotten one hung up in the rocks and not been able to get it out. The ball ones, the chains, everything else, I have had to cut those off and leave them in the bottom of the river so many times. But a very popular, very good river fisherman showed me a kettlebell once and I've never gone back. And those are dirt cheap. Go to Academy, pick them up. Anywhere, you know, they're just, get the metal ones, of course, and not the ones with plastic bits and stuff like that. But kettlebells are the best anchors I've ever used. All right. Another safety item is a flag, okay? Especially a flag that's got some type of a light on top. This is the Carbon, what do they call it?
Carbon Pro.
Yeah, the Carbon Pro. So it's got, you know, it's got carbon rod and everything else, and again, it mounts to the track backs. And you mount it on the back of your boat. This bag is also the flag. And so it's very simple. Just hooks right into there and goes on the back, and it's got a real bright reflector just in case your battery goes dead. They're now LED, so they're super bright. The original ones were horrible because they were incandescent. But it'll mount right back here real quick. And there are some places where you run into a boater and you don't have one of these, he'll probably pull off the side and cuss you out for not having a flag on for some reason. Most states it's not required. Most states by law it's not required, but get one and use it every time you're out on the water that has big boats that can go full speed. Okay, it's just something else so they can see you, especially in the morning. Let me go through everything else. Rod holders. Any questions before I go into like the deeper details? JT, you got a question?
No, sir.
All right, just checking. I know you.
I've been to a seminar or two.
Yeah. So, how many of us fish kayak tournaments? I know these ugly guys do. So, a measuring board. One of the funny things when I went from only fishing bass boat tournaments to fishing kayak tournaments is I had to learn how to talk their lingo. And when you talk to a kayak fisherman, you can always tell when he talks about the size of the bass he caught, he never talks about weight.
Nope.
It's always inches. So my personal best inches wise is 25 and a quarter inches is the biggest bass I've ever caught. Okay, and laid down the road to my house. 25 and a quarter inches. I can't tell you how much that bass weighed. I have a scale under my seat in my kayak and I don't use it. It's just funny when you talk to kayak guys. But get a good measuring board anyway. Especially if you're doing like walleye and stuff like that where there's inch limits and stuff like that. But with tournaments, we use boards that are exact. Mainly just to keep it fair. The old, what is it called? The hog trough. The old hog trough we used was so inaccurate. You could lose a tournament because your board was printed a little bit different than the board with the other guys. So this is actually a new one, and it lets you keep track of like your shortest fish, and you move these things around and stuff like that. It's a big board. It's pretty heavy, but it's plastic and it floats, which is nice. All right. Next thing is stuff to mount your phone and your camera. We all want to share our pretty pictures of our big fish. So Yak Dak has finally, after 3 years of begging, made a phone holder that mounts onto these things, and I've actually got an 8-inch extension on this one. And why do I have an 8-inch extension?
So you can watch football while you're on the water.
So I watch football while I'm on the water, which I do all the time. But anyways, no. Is to prevent that kayak crotch shot everybody sees. Okay, how many of us have seen a guy holding a fish in a kayak and the camera's way down here and all you see is his crotch, the fish, and his chin, right? So if you can get your camera or your phone up high enough to be about right center with your chest when you're sitting down, you can avoid that stupid shot that we all see, okay? Another thing is a phone tether. So the cool thing about a PFD is a lot of them have pockets that fit your phone and they have places, tether points. This one's not out on the market yet, but you can find them on Temu and Amazon. And it's just a metal tab that goes in the back and it has a little loop that comes out of your deal and it has one of these little slinkies. I started making these years ago out of 550 cord, like paracord, and Gorilla tape. Where I take a 5-inch piece of Gorilla or 550 cord, rip all the guts out of it, make it flat, tape it up between 2 pieces of Gorilla tape, and then stick it in here, and that was my tab. The problem is it would eventually bunch up and start pulling through the hole, and then you'd have issues. So this one's going to be coming out this year, and it's just a tab about that big, and it's aluminum, and it holds your phone. And I have, knock on wood, never lost a phone since I started tethering them this way. And what's good is now our iPhones are waterproof, so I don't want to talk about how many I've lost because when they weren't waterproof. But anyway, so have it tethered, and there's a tether point on this deal right here, and your phone clips right in just like that. One thing I don't like is it doesn't pivot, so you got to loosen it to pivot it. But you avoid that kayak cross shot. Another thing I do, if you guys are ever interested in what I do personally, is I live stream from my kayak during my tournaments on TikTok and on YouTube. Okay, I'm the only kayaker that has Starlink on my kayak.
Yes. Rub it in, rub it in.
I know it's ridiculous, but yeah, I do. I mount Starlink on the front of my kayak so I can live stream my tournaments. Yes, sir. Oh, you're waving at somebody? Okay. But I'm gonna go over one little thing one more time. Is the biggest thing is for tournament fishing and for even a fun day of fishing, is make sure that everything is in its place and make sure it fits your fishing style. And the reason I say that is when I do a new rig and I talk about it online and stuff like that, my paddle shop gets a call within about 48 hours of some guy that says, I want my stuff rigged just like Jensen's. And I'm like, no, you don't. You know, but he always gets 2 or 3 guys that call and says they want theirs rigged up exactly like mine. I fish different than you do. Okay, so as you're rigging your kayak, if I had one word of advice is do it slowly. Pick one thing at a time and play around with where you want to put it. One of the biggest things that I don't have it on here that I have and always is in the same place is my landing net. Okay, and I failed to bring it over here. But my landing net has to be right here. Okay, and if you looked at my tournament boat, I actually had a plate built that kicks off to the side of this boat because I could not get it in the right place. And the reason I say that, and this gives you an idea about my whole brain and the way it thinks when I'm figuring out where things go. When you're fighting a fish and you have that fish coming at the boat and you need to land that fish, okay, think about it. If your boat was going this way when you set the hook in front of you, or even if you were sitting still and you weren't anchored down, your boat moved towards that fish, so you already lost a little bit of power on that hook set, so you may not have gotten that hook in really, really good. If your net is sitting up front, and I've watched this happen by filming other anglers, your net's sitting up front and you've got a fish coming at you, you're going towards that fish and you lean forward to grab that net, you just let that line go slack. And if you didn't get a good hook set on that fish, you just lost that fish. And I watched a guy lose a $10,000 tournament because of this, because I watched him lose 5 fish because his net laid up front. So I said, okay, how can I solve that problem for me? My net sits right here, and Yakutak makes a rod holder called a Zuka 2. And when we designed that Zuka 2, or when they were designing it, I called the owner of the company. I said, make it to where it'll hold your leverage landing net to where it doesn't rotate. And you do. You take that Zuka 2 and turn it upside down and use it upside down, and it'll hold that leverage landing net that has a little arm scoop. It'll hold that arm scoop and keep your net from rotating. So when I have a fish coming at the boat, even if it is in the air, I can do this. My net's right here, my rod's, the line's still tight. That fish literally can be in the air, and I just reach back, and it's underneath him before he hits the floor. We timed it, and it takes me 0.7 seconds
Quick draw.
from the time that I go backwards to where the fish is in the nets. 0.7 seconds just by practicing it like a baseball swing. Just literally whoop, and it's there. But by having that net in the same spot, locked in the same position, I can land that net 99.99% of the time. And that's how I think is, what am I going to do to be able to make sure that I get every single fish that I catch in the boat? Is the paddle going to be in the way? Is anything else going to be in the way while I do it? And the other thing is I try to always land my fish on the right side. Doesn't always happen, but I try to always land my fish on the right side. So when you're thinking about the position of your net, what hand is your rod in every time you bring a fish in?
Left for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. If you're right-handed, your rod's typically in your left hand. Okay, so my net's going to always be on my free hand side. What's going to get in the way, and how am I going to screw things up? And you just do that by repetition and figuring it out, always solving problems and stuff like that. But with all of this and all the rigging that you do, the worst thing that I want to, the one thing I hate hearing people say is, I just lost a fish of a lifetime because something was in the way, or that I didn't have something right, and things like that. If you can solve all those problems, that fish of a lifetime will make it in the boat. Okay. Another thing about a net, before I end this, another thing about a net is use one, especially when you're using lures that have treble hooks. Okay. There's nothing I hate worse than having a fish with treble hooks flopping in the middle of the kayak between my legs. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Yep, especially like a gar or Russ's chain pickerel and stuff like that just don't stop flopping, or a mudfish, it just doesn't. Don't use a net. I know it's a pain in the butt to get those treble hooks out of that net, but use one, because you won't be able to, it'll mess up a day. You got treble hook in places you don't like to have them in, for sure. And I've been there. It's scary.
But the good thing about the Yak Attack nets is they're rubber, so they're not as liable to get the hooks stuck in the string as they would with the old.
Yeah, the leverage landing net is rubber. So I don't have that one. I have the old net. So.
Yeah, of course you do.
So I appreciate everybody. What?
Somebody needs to upgrade now.
No, when they stopped making those nets, I had them ship me the old ones. There's a reason why I'm so fast with the net, because I don't use the new rubber ones.
Okay.
All right, well, thanks everybody for showing up for the seminar. If you have any questions, come right up here and I'll talk to you. Yeah, this is the first time I've given this seminar, so I'm sure it'll change. Come back next week and it'll be totally different.
Good job.
Thanks. Appreciate it.